So what did you think about, first of all, when you read the script, what went through your mind?
Well, it would seem like a old-fashioned adventure, which was quite timeless in its themes. I've always wanted to be in a adventure film about a journey to an undiscovered island. I think we'll always be curious about those questions, which is why we keep telling those stories, whether it's Robinson Crusoe or Castaway, or we're kind of, as human beings who are so cocooned by modern technology, we're kind of curious, if you took all of that away and put them back into the wilderness, what would it be like? And this wilderness has the biggest icon of motion pictures in it, which is King Kong. I mean, it's just so exciting.
Your character's complex, very interesting. When we meet him at the beginning of the movie, it seems like he's a bit lost. But what drives him to go to this place?
I think so I play a character called Captain James Conrad, and he's a British SAS, former SAS soldier, a specialist in the recovery of lost soldiers and jungle survival. And he's one of those men who is more content in an extreme physical environment, perhaps. And he's seen a lot of action, and I think that has left a mark. And he's without purpose, and he takes the commission to join the expedition to Skull Island. And what is awakened by his experience is a newfound humility and a sense of wonder that actually, by coming face to face with the breadth of nature, to some extent in the shape of Kong, he realizes how small and insignificant his own life is, and that gives him some inner peace.
How did you prepare a character like this?
Watch a lot of David Attenborough's Planet Earth. I did a lot of reading, which isn't mandatory, but I always enjoy it. I read around it's such a fascinating period of history, the early 70s. The way culture has been informed by the social and political movements of the late 60s. The context of the Vietnam War, and what the experience was like for soldiers on the ground. It was a fantastic, seminal piece of work by Michael Hare called Dispatches, which I read again. And I also did some physical training, just because I knew that even though I have no real experience of the discipline of the special forces, I had to make some small steps towards replicating that. So I trained with a Navy SEAL and some former British Royal Marines, and they put me through my paces so that I had at least some physical discipline to fall back on.
How does meeting the photographer Weaver affect him, and what do you think Bree brought to that role?
Well, Bree is innately curious. She herself is somebody who has a keen investigative streak. And I think both Conrad and Weaver are iconoclasts. They want to uncover the truth behind the curtain in the corridors of power. They sense that what they're being told is not quite the whole truth. And they're loners, and they're kind of bonded by that, I think.
You have a very good chemistry with her on screen, and it's not this obvious love story that we've seen in other movies before. I thought that's one of the things I like the most about it.
Oh, good. Yeah. Simply put, I think it felt like to all of us, to myself, to Bree, and to Jordan, if there was a love story, a kind of conventional love story in this, it just felt unearned and cliche. Perhaps that's not the right word. It just felt like it was the wrong relationship for them to have. It's actually much more interesting to have two characters who are on equal footing in terms of their independence, and who are thrown together in this very intense, extreme environment and have to find a way to work together.
You mentioned Jordan. I think it's quite extraordinary what he's achieved here with his second movie.
Yeah.
What can you say about him?
Jordan has an extraordinary strength and vision. Really, the whole concept of this film came from him. He came in with the idea that it should be set in the 70s, that he conceived of and invented some of the most breathtaking action sequences in the film. And it's very smart, and he's a very, very sharp image maker as a director. He found a way to photograph the cast and the locations and Kong in a way that I think seems very fresh and also classic.
And what a cast, right?
Yeah, amazing group of people. Yeah, it's a really diverse cast, and each of them with very diverse and unique talents, and everybody brought something special to the table. Really incredible when you think about it. And when I first got the final list, you look down that list, and that's a group of A-list racehorses. Samuel L. Jackson, Brie Larson, John Goodman, John C. Reilly, Corey Hawkins, Thomas Mann, Jason Mitchell, Jeng Tien. These are all people who've already done a lot of work, and it was a great time.
And of course, we can't forget that guy. We can't forget Kong.
Yes. Yeah,
how was it? First of all, acting opposite Kong when he wasn't really there.
Yeah.
And then afterwards, your reaction when you finally saw him there.
Yeah, it is a very strange experience. The best thing I think Jordan did was he insisted we shoot in real places. As actors, it's our job to imagine we are on an island untouched by man, a wilderness that's been completely unspoiled. And he took us to places on the planet which have not been touched, or which are relatively, where still nature is alive and well and unchecked. Places like Oahu in Hawaii and Queensland in Australia and Vietnam. But the only thing he couldn't provide was the 100-foot prehistoric ape. And so we spent 5 months imagining it. And it's interesting because there's no frame of reference. No one has a frame of reference for what that would be like. You just have to commit to the act of imagining what it might be like. And when I finally saw the finished film, it's an extraordinary thing to see, because it's kind of above and beyond what I had imagined. It's breathtaking what they've done.
It's always extraordinary how they've managed to, in this big spectacle of a movie, really care and develop the characters, and talk about issues that, even though this movie is set in the beginning of the 70s, are relevant today. Our relationship, for instance, with nature, right?
Yeah. I think there's something absolutely timeless about the theme of our relationship with nature. We can't forget, as human beings, that we share the planet with a whole array of natural life, the animal kingdom, and all kinds of flora and fauna. And I think a healthy relationship with the natural world is something that makes us more human and not less. And we have, as a race, human beings have we've isolated ourselves from it, taken ourselves out of the equation, and we're dependent on these extraordinary technologies we've invented. Air travel, space travel, computers, phones, buses, electricity. We've done remarkable things, but there is still a mysterious intelligence in the natural world that commands respect. And I think I'm unqualified to talk about it, but I think we have to certainly consider that as we move forward.
And Kong embodies that.
I think Kong is an emblem of the power of nature, that nature is both beautiful and terrifying. It has its own order. There is a natural order to things, and a natural cycle, and that Kong is somehow a representative of that and a protector of that.